Oh, somebody's outside. I'm jealous.
And we are live, so we'll go ahead and kick off the meeting. This is the Auburn City Council special session for June 6th, 2020. I will call the meeting to order. If you will all join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, again, my apologies that we're running a few minutes late here. This is a city council meeting, so I will ask the city clerk to take the roll, please.
Sure, and I just want to make a quick note online that the agenda says June 6th. Today is indeed June 5th, and it was published on our website as June 5th with the correct date and time. So we're good to go. It's just a typo, a clerical typo on the agenda. So I will call roll. Council member Dowden Calvillo.
Present.
Mackey.
Here.
Spokley.
Here.
And Mayor Berlant.
I am here. Great. Thank you very much, Amy. We'll go ahead and move to public comment. This is the time provided so that a person may speak to the council on an item that is on the agenda. Amy, is there anybody who has public comment for today's meeting?
There is no public comment for this meeting.
Okay, great. Did anybody here have anything they wanted to make public comment on? And seeing no, then I'm going to jump right into the items for today's workshop. So the first item is health and emergency response update. Just got off the computer with our county health officers. So a couple new things I just wanted to bring to everybody's attention. If you're watching the numbers and watching the stats board, Placer County has seen a 33% increase in the number of cases since last week. Now, there have been no new deaths, so that is the positive as of this moment. There are 11 people in the hospital, 4 of which are in the ICU. So kind of breaking down the increase of about 65 people in the past week that have tested positive. All of those cases are in the age range of 18 to 49. Now, what that meant to the health officer was actually there's positive news. The positive part of that is that typically, looking back at the past numbers, the last 200 cases, only about 5% of those within the age range of 18 to 49 have been hospitalized. So when it comes to overall hospital capacity, even though this is a big jump, this age range typically is able to recover at home in isolation. So just wanted to report that out there. There were also some pretty big numbers occurring in what I'll call isolated locations, one of those being the jail, 14 cases, as well as in one household where there had been international travel. So that's not all of the cases, but there is a large number that are from those two sectors. And they're taking steps in the jail specifically to help kind of mitigate the spread. And it's likely that the numbers may go up at the jail, not because of new spread, but because of the 14-day incubation period that occurs with COVID-19. So it's likely the number of positives will actually go up. A couple other things I just wanted to announce for the group is starting Monday, testing will be moved in our area to Rockland at the Placer County Library. There was a lot of discussion of the fact that the number of people being tested is low, but the capacity is high, meaning more people really should be encouraged to go get tested because it does help provide a baseline of, how well we're doing as far as those who are not testing positive for it. And again, it gives you a good baseline number. So Monday, you can go to the Rockland Library for that. To provide some more on this, and maybe we'll get it while we're meeting, I should double check here. The governor and the state are anticipated to release today a number of new guidance for several sectors. Now, the change here for our discussion that we haven't seen in the last month is the fact that it's going to be made very clear, or it's anticipated, I should say, to be made clear that this guidance will have some lead time. So it's likely that today that guidance will come out, but that these sectors will not be able to reopen unless, will be able to reopen if they're in a county that already has a variance. So Placer County does. And then that start date, though, for these sectors would not be until June 12th. What that means is that gives us more or less 6 days or about a week to turn around preparing those businesses to understand the requirements, understand the recommendations, put into effect the trainings and the plans that would be required. I think I mentioned a couple of those, kind of hinting at them last week. Day camps was one of those. So hopefully more guidance to come. If I happen to get it while we're meeting, I will, of course, share that publicly as well. But that is anticipated today, later, additional sectors.
Daniel, I was just going to mention that today during Q&A, he actually said that they're releasing guidance today for nail salons. So that's not effective today, like you said, but that they are going to release some guidance for nail salons. It was someone specifically asked about that. So I wanted to throw that in there because we talked about that before.
What about for gyms and personal training, that sort of thing?
Was that on the list, Daniel?
Well, it was on the list of potential areas. Nothing has been released publicly. So funny enough, what Alice mentioned wasn't even discussed with the health officers. So I think the bottom line is, we could I appreciate hearing what he said publicly, because I think that makes it a little more factual. It just reiterates that the right hand and the left hand aren't always talking. The left hand here didn't include nail salons. So
Yeah, I just heard it during Q&A, and I'm like, oh.
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be in there, Alice, salons, like he talked about it. But there's a couple of things that we've been tracking that we expected. I do think, Cheryl, that gyms is going to be in there for sure. And I think leisure hotel will be in there. What we're hearing though is there's not going to be any guidance on the state on leisure travel, which is going to again lead to some confusion, I think. So like non-essential travel, I don't think is going to be part of this. So I think it's going to be a mixed bag. I was super hopeful yesterday, but it's a little more tempered, I think, is what we're going to see, which is unusual for him. Usually he under promises and then, tries to surprise you. But I think it's going to be a mixed bag, but good. We're still moving.
But again, if we get it during this meeting, I will, of course, give everybody the entire list, and that may give us some room for some discussion. But I guess the bottom line is specifically for the chamber and for our business districts is be on the lookout, additional guidance for a whole host of different sectors, and gives us about a week's time period here for implementation before they would be able to reopen. We have PPE that we'll talk about, so that may go hand in hand with those, but go ahead, Matt.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. You mentioned, based on your call, an increase in the 18 to 49 bracket. What was that percent increase you mentioned?
The increase in cases over last week was 33%.
Wow.
Now, the thing I was going to lead into next is we had a lot of discussion about in the county's approval to reopen to stage 2, there were a number of triggers that were laid out that if they occur or a series of them occur, we would have to kind of roll backwards our reopenings. There are 4 of them. They're pretty complicated. It is a formula, so it's not as easy to digest. I can go through some highlights of them, but I will tell you that as of today, even with the increase that we have seen, none of the triggers have been met to even discuss the rolling back. And I think that the health officer kind of reassured us that if we hit a trigger, it won't mean an immediate rollback. It will mean a discussion with the county, or excuse me, with the state on continue to do something else, another mitigating factor, or will the state revoke completely attestation in our approval? She felt that it really was more to a conversation. And it's complicated. The way I could try to kind of read through this was that it was and this is where it's weird because it is a formula, but it's more or less the doubling of new cases within 5 days. But it's not just 5 to 10. It's a weird formula that projects out. And so we really got lost in trying to understand it. So I won't waste our time in trying to explain it. But it also included hospitalizations exceeding 135% of the baseline capacity. Just to throw out some numbers, baseline in Placer County is 500. There are 500 beds within our hospitals. We built capacity above baseline to another 500 beds. So if we were 135% of that 500, then that would trigger it. Again, we are at 11 hospitalizations, so really nowhere close to that. An increased infection of healthcare workers is another trigger, which again has a formula of what number that increase looks like. And then less than 7 days of PPE equipment for healthcare workers, which my understanding is we are prepared with our healthcare, specifically our hospitals, having protective equipment. And it comes back to age range that the new cases are occurring. And I'm not a doctor, I'm just kind of reiterating and summarizing what she did to the mayors of the county. But the age range has a very small percentage of hospitalization. So at the end of the day, the discussion really was continued on the recommendations that she has been giving, the requirements of stage 2 openings, social distancing, washing your hands, cleaning, as well as wearing face coverings, continue to be the recommendations to kind of keep us without going backwards. But I guess just to summarize this conversation, I sense any type of urgency that that this huge increase of 33% was a specific problem. It's just something we need to continue to monitor and watch. So that is a quick update of the health officer stuff. If there's any other questions, yeah, Cheryl.
33% represents what number?
I just doing my math in my head, when we met last Friday, it was 199. And if the number
So
is
33% of 199, that's how much we increased?
I think so. Again, I don't want to try to do the math, but I just know 199 was the number last Friday. We're at 260. Right off that it was a 33% increase since last.
We're at 2 what? Danielle, I'm sorry, you cut out.
265.
Yes.
265.
Does that math add up? Did they do their math correct? It's okay. I just wanted to.
I didn't try to figure that out.
It's,
Me either. Like I said, I'm just reiterating.
It sounds about right, though.
Yeah, 33% increase over 7 days and 44% increase over 14 days.
And Daniel, how do we, I mean, obviously the testing is becoming more available. And we know, we've talked about this at this meeting before, that we had some challenges with the testing where they were taking longer than we anticipated to get results back. Is this a new number based on more testing and the fact that we've got, you know, a larger denominator here? What's going on? Why are?
She made it pretty clear, from her perspective at least, that it absolutely did not have anything to do with the additional testing that's going on, but it being true new cases. Now, you don't know a new case until you've been tested. So to me, they kind of go hand in hand. But I think part of the numbers, and though it's not a majority, as I kind of rattled off, you know, there have been some outbreaks in specific locations that are not a result of testing, but rather other required testing, i.e. at the jail, which is where one of those outbreaks have occurred. So I don't really understand, but in what the media has reported, she said, and what she said to me today was very clear that she did not believe that the increase was due to additional testing.
Thank you.
This is Rob, and if you track along, Matt, if you go to their scoreboard, you'll see that, again, my family's been tested twice now because we have capacity, and I think it's good. But if you watch the test numbers, they're not dramatically increasing, right? Like it's a steady. I think we're at 12,000 and change tests. A couple weeks ago, we were around 10. So you know what I mean? Like it's not. You're not seeing a huge. People aren't running out there and getting tested. Unfortunately, I wish they were. So I kind of think that that supports what she's saying, that it's not just having, an abundance of new data because we're testing so many new people. It's important for people to do it. I'd like to see us up to capacity in terms of who are going in there, but it's not happening yet.
Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
So I was wondering, out of the 66, what number is the outbreak at the jail? How many are, let's say, Roseville, which has a larger population? How many are actually in Auburn? Did they break those numbers out?
As far as the number within the jail population specifically?
Within the 66 additional cases.
Oh, that wasn't provided. I do think that if you look at their.
I
their
know.
models-
There's 14 from the jail.
Yeah, 14 in the jail, but I think Marjorie was asking in Auburn in general out of the.
Oh, sorry.
So, and in the scoreboard that they have, it does break it down by mid-placer, but I am not watching the box scores, how much that increased.
Daniel, in your updates and your meetings that you're having with the health officials, are you getting any input on the availability of the antibody testing? Because I've got a lot of people asking me whether it's available in our region or in our county, and thought I'd ask.
So there, we had some discussion last week related to that testing, and I'd have to follow back up. She kind of made it clear that she thought there was just one. I don't know if it's a brand is the right word. That is the most accurate testing, and she said that there was one of the hospitals that did provide it. I don't have all those details, so I would have to follow back up. But no, there's not been a lot of discussion related to antibody testing and determining whether or not you've had it in the past.
Thank you.
Any other, I guess I just have one more actually item on here. I brought this up last week and we brought it up again this week, is the fact that, there's a lot more demonstrations that are occurring in our county. And while all of them have, really done a good job of trying to advertise wearing face coverings, the truth is there's obviously people who aren't, and there's people who are not social distancing, but protests and church are just by the way the rules are written, allowed, but that other public gatherings, such as, let's say, a fireworks show, are not. And so I had last week really pushed hard on, having some better guidance that says, well, if you can be people and take these precautions at church and in protest, why can't you not do it at other community types of events? And the health officer said that she's been having discussions with the state, urging them to put in place common sense guidance related to public gatherings, similar to that of church and protest. So we had some dialogue there, no guidance, no direction as of yet, but at least I felt confident that she is advocating on our behalf to get that additional guidance from the state so that we can, especially with, as I mentioned last week, the 4th of July around the corner, really need to have some level of understanding, because if you looked at any of the Auburn Journal comments or other Facebook posts, people are pretty angry that you can protest, but you can't celebrate Independence Day. And I think we'll talk about, looking at the agenda here, talk about some of that. But anyways, that's the update on the health. If there's no other questions, move on. Okay. city actions and services. Did we, Bob is working on the city's budget this afternoon,
You know-
but
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I am on. Unfortunately, all my computers are being used for budget right now, so I just had to use the phone. Just as by way of quick updates on things, city is working on their plan to reopen City Hall in full services sometime a little later this month. One of the things that we are actually waiting on are a lot of the equipment and materials that we have ordered to maintain a safer work environment for both public and our employees, as well as social distancing operations here in town. So as soon as we start getting everything in and we finalize our best practices for providing services here in City Hall, we will be putting out official noticing to the community that you can come in and get a full array of services without having to particularly make an appointment here. As far as reaching out to the community, which we've been doing quite a lot of since the COVID issue came upon us, this week was a little bit different and more interesting. I think starting last weekend, we had to do a great deal of setup work for the demonstrations that occurred. We coordinated with quite a number of other agencies. Obviously, they went down very, very nicely. But at the same time, we were out in mass as city staff, going door to door, providing information to businesses and getting a lot of feedback and questions about where we stood COVID as well. So although it certainly threw us off our normal workload, I think it provided a really wonderful opportunity to speak with so many of our businesses and provide them with information, not only on the demonstrations, but on COVID and where things were heading as well. So overall, I think we've had a good week, we've had a successful week, and a great week for communicating to the business community. As way of just to wrap up there, we are still working with Allison over at the Chamber on getting business supplies in. We received just one, as they call it, a test shipment of 500 masks. We have a large number of masks being shipped here. As soon as we get it, we will be again, the repository, and we will assist them with distribution. And the Chamber, Allison can give you a full update on that program. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
great. Thank you, Bob. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah, Matt, go ahead.
Hey, Bob, the outdoor dining situation with the protests, where do we stand with that? Have we kind of reenacted that so the restaurateurs in town can kind of start redoing their outdoor dining? Where are we at with that?
Yes, actually what we've done, and we did it in several senses, but we went through systematically downtown and Old Town, removing anything that could be thrown or burned. And that included anything from umbrellas to tables, chairs, hay bales, trash cans, everything was removed. They're being put back in place today. For the most part, not everything, but I think most of those amenities will be back. We are in contact with the business associations for any their tables and chairs that are out. They have been working with us wonderfully, and they have removed them at our request and had them locked up so no one could get to them. And we are moving right back out again as quickly as possible to provide those amenities. But we will continue to go back and forth as need be.
So obviously when we get word of situations that would require us to go and sweep that stuff off city streets and out of our parks that we've provided for our local retailers and restaurateurs to take advantage of, you guys are ebb and flow and just handling it as those requests come?
Yeah, and a lot of it is really coming from us as well. It is us going to the business associations or to the businesses saying, we need all this removed at such and such a time, or by tomorrow, whatever it may be. We talk to them as to why, what we need to have done, and everybody's worked with us wonderfully. So we do have very specific protocols we've now developed, not only for what you're talking about, but also for how we're handling demonstrations with our departments as well as the regional departments that are assisting us.
And last quick question, the outdoor dining in some of our public spaces, have we gotten any complaints from other community members about issues related to that, or has it gone well? What have you heard?
Zero complaints have come to us. I think what we have is both downtown associations. They appreciate the fact that we're giving a 30-day opportunity here, or excuse me, a 60-day opportunity here for the outdoor dining. They've worked very diligently to assist us in, again, the ebb and flow of having things out and when not to have them out. They're also working at cleanup and keeping things cleaned and maintained. So there's just a really nice cooperation and teamwork going back and forth. So I think everybody has an eye on, we don't want to create problems. There have been a couple little things I've had to ask specific businesses to do. They've done them immediately. And I think with that kind of cooperation, I don't see us having many complaints at all.
And my last question, Bob, if we heard wind that we were having outside, influences or outside protests coming into town, what is your process for identifying these potential risks to our property owners or to our business owners primarily? Is there a phone tree? Is there a text a program that you're utilizing? How do we do that other than just walking door to door? Because that can take time.
Absolutely. There's several different protocols. And so one of the protocols that I'm working on is I work with immediately with Public Works to move things in and out. And I will also be contacting the leadership of each of the business associations who then get the word out immediately to their membership. As they're doing that, both Public Works and I disperse around the community, around the business areas, starting that process and making sure they're going. What we do have is a couple of wonderful key people that are taking the responsibility to making sure that their business groups and their business areas are complying immediately. And so we're seeing compliance in the matter of 45 minutes to an hour. And so with the kind of respect that these folks are showing for their business areas, I mean, that is just wonderful work. And it requires now of me a series of 5 or 6 phone calls, and people are jumping in and getting the job done immediately and getting the word out to the rest of their membership.
That's great. Thank you very much for the updates, Bob. Appreciate it. Thank you, Daniel.
Any other questions from the group for our city manager? Yeah, go ahead, Marjorie. And then Rob.
There was a question I heard, but I'm not sure I heard the answer. So if I, as a citizen, heard of some outsiders coming in to rabble rouse, who would I contact?
I would certainly contact 911.
Sorry?
I would certainly contact 911.
Okay.
Take it directly there. And the police department, all public safety is extremely well coordinated right now. As soon as that call comes in, there will be the appropriate actions triggered almost immediately.
Perfect.
Unfortunately, we can't talk about all the tactics and strategies being employed because we would like to utilize those over time. And so we can't talk about it. And I would love to be able to brag about what they're all doing because it is such fine work. And a lot of it, even though it's deployed so you don't see it. But there's a huge amount of security being provided to this community as things pop up. So if you as a citizen see something or you're concerned about something, please call us right away and we'll get to work on it.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, just 2 things. One, Bob, I assume you have the APD has some sort of vetting protocols for how they handle a lot of this information that comes in, because obviously there's just a hailstorm of misinformation that's coming around and people are trying to foster fear and everything else. Like, can I assume that those protocols are in place so that we're not unnecessarily worrying our businesses if things aren't legitimate?
I think on Monday, there was a lot of misinformation that went out. We were able to identify from whom and how that got out there. So that is always something we're working on. Yes, all the law enforcement agencies in this region work very closely together. I think one of our major concerns, however, is that anytime you put something out over social media, it's not always going to the intended audience. It gets pushed way out there. And so law enforcement keeps close monitor on where things go and who is getting it and who is responding. So as good of intentions as we might have in trying to pull good people together, a lot of times that message gets out to people that we would prefer not to have here. And so that requires then that our law enforcement agencies gear up for what could be a worst case scenario. We always hope for the best, but we have to be prepared for the worst.
No question. Thanks. The second thing I wanted to ask about is the downtown outdoor dining areas. I walked it the other day. Are we still talking about just the area right around the clock tower? And if so, how does that work for the restaurants on the other side of downtown? And are they interested in outdoor dining options?
At this juncture,
Go ahead,
Okay.
Bob. I muted Marjorie. Sorry, that Marjorie had a little bit of background noise. Go ahead, Bob.
At this juncture, the additional tables that have gone out, last week I had told you, or the previous week, of just a couple of opportunities that we approved that were being sponsored by specific businesses. Since then, the Downtown Business Association has purchased 22 top tables with umbrellas to put around in a wide variety of areas. Again, this is just a test time. What we are really looking for is giving people places to sit down and just enjoy the downtown while maintaining their appropriate distancing. We do, and we have talked about the fact that we don't want restaurants specifically using these tables for their business. That's not what they're intended for, but we do understand that some people will take their food out and sit there. It is going to be the requirement of the business association to keep things clean. And if it can't, then it's something we're going to all have to talk about and figure out how to work. Again, we're looking at about 60 days of a trial period here. I'm working on right now a more permanent temporary policy for the council to consider for things like this. But in fact, what we do have to really respect is how businesses can use public spaces over the long haul. I think right now we're looking, you might look and drive by and say, oh, here's what's permanent. By no means. This is a 60-day trial to help boost the marketplace for our businesses. Specifically what it's there for. Doesn't mean it's going to be there forever, but we're going to learn a lot in how to make it work, what does work, what doesn't, where are the problems, and can we overcome those, and maybe look at other options that can be employed in the future. But by no means what you are seeing out there today is that going to be the norm moving forward until there's very specific council action for that.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you very much. Bob, any other questions for the city manager? Okay, seeing none, we will go ahead then and move to our next item, which is business personal protective equipment needs. Bob mentioned the additional, the first test load of masks. Allison, I'll turn it over to you and maybe you can update us on where we are with all that.
Perfect. Thank you. We put in the order. It has been received by Cal OES. There's an order of 36,000 masks and 700 gallons of hand sanitizer. And then the test order of the 500 cloth masks. And that obviously was received. I am supposed to be getting an update from Cal OES with a tracking number as to when the shipment will arrive. It's supposed to come from UPS. We were hoping that that information would have already been sent, and honestly, we hoped that the shipment would be received by at least today. I have not received a tracking number, so hopefully it will be early next week and they won't attempt delivery this weekend, which we have heard is a possibility, but hopefully slight possibility since I haven't received any information. So right now we're just kind of waiting to hear from the state with our tracking number, and then we'll have a better update as to when the supplies come in. Once they come in, we already have some businesses that have self-identified a need, and we already have the ability to push those orders over to the city. And Bob and I have talked about a process and procedure about how we can get those orders out. And then as we're waiting for the supplies, we'll just continue to encourage businesses that might be in need to fill out the form so we know what they need and we can properly get that order ready for them to pick up at City Hall.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Allison on the protective equipment that's being ordered or on its way? Great, thank you, Allison, for that update.
Next item on here was stage 3 reopening status. I think I probably jumped the gun and talked a little bit about that at the beginning, and looking through my emails, the state has not released anything since we've discussed here, but again, we'll just continue to monitor that and get that to this group, but then also publish whenever we hear anything. Did anybody have any go backs though that they want to talk about related to stage 3 reopenings? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead then and move to our Auburn Chamber of Commerce report. So Allison, I'll kick it back over to you.
Perfect, thank you. Not much else outside of the PPE. We do have another seminar coming up, and that will be on mental health, and we will have 3 different representatives there to assist our business owners in managing their mental health and that of their employees. So we will have Michael from Sundance Coaching, which will talk about the business aspect and just some overall coaching for businesses. We will have a representative from CAC Fit to talk about exercise and its health benefits, especially related to mental health. And then we will have someone from Placer County that will be giving specific strategies on how to manage your mental health, both for our business owners as individuals and for them to how they can assist their employees as they're reemerging, reopening their businesses and kind of dealing with this new normal that we all have and how much our lives have changed. So that's our next seminar. It will be next Wednesday at noon. You do have to register. The information will be on the Chamber's website, hopefully by the end of the day today, and then also on Facebook so people can register for that seminar.
Thank you, Allison. Any questions for the Chamber of Commerce? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move to our business associations. I think we lost Addison, but Marjorie will start with, or conclude as well, with you for the 49 Business Park Association. Excuse me, the Airport Business Park Association. And I'm trying to unmute you, but you might have to do it yourself. There you go.
Yeah, so there's nothing new to report out there. The new airport business at Air International is hiring. So let people know that they've got a sign out that they're hiring. So that's all I have for news.
That's great. Thank you. We'll work to get the word out there because obviously a lot of attention has been made of their coming to our community, and with the job market being what it is and people unemployed, great opportunity. So hopefully we can gather some additional information and share that. So thank you. Have any questions for Marjorie? And I'm not seeing anybody else from our business association, so I'll take an opportunity roundtable the rest of the group. If anybody else has any items they want to talk about or discuss, and we'll start with Cheryl.
I just wanted to ask you when this information will become public as far as the guidance for the phase 3 reopening, Daniel.
So ask that question specifically, and all the county was given was that It was not anticipated to be as part of the governor's press conference during the noon hour, though it sounds like some of it might have been, though that item wasn't considered. They thought it would be today. I haven't seen anything as of yet. So hopefully within the next couple of hours, we'll have additional. I, of course, will share it with this group if I see it. If you see it before me, you can do the same, and then we'll publish it on social media. So hopefully later today is the answer.
Thank you, Dan. That's all I have.
Anybody else? Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
Just want to mention that the California Welcome Center Auburn here, our office, actually opened Tuesday. We're one of the earliest openers of the 18, so happy to do that. We've got a little bit of reduced hours. We're doing Tuesday through Saturday. Our volunteer staff is understandably cautious about being partaking. But we're excited to get the shop back open to residents. It's kind of been a soft opening. Most DMOs around are sort of pausing social right now. So at some point we'll start getting the word out that we're open. And again, until there's a lift, a more substantive directive on travel, on non-essential travel, that's kind of when I think we can really start to promote things on that. But we're open. Come see us. Come check us out. We got nice stuff. We're very safe in here. Have a lot of all the protocols in place. So that's what I got.
Great to hear that. Rob, go ahead, Matt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Rob, from what I'm seeing on all of the media outlets, that the RV world and the RV options for families to get out and get away from their households and out into the environment are really popular these days. In fact, there's limitations on availability for renting these things. Are you seeing any uptick? I mean, I'm glad to hear you're open, but
Yeah, I mean,
are you seeing any uptick on visitors from out of the area coming in and asking questions about where to go and what opportunities they have here?
what's interesting is we just got some of our Google Analytics back, and our website really doubled in traffic in May. And that's about when I think a lot of this was happening. Again, it's, there are people coming through, they stop in, they ask about what, we're getting tons of calls about what's open and whatnot. The problem for us still, though, is the kind of embargo on Tahoe right now. It's still such a major destination for us, especially with the drive market. We think that's probably coming. Sorry about that. As we gradually open up. So yeah, there's no doubt that the RV world has already started. It's obviously a very popular way to travel right now because you can social distance with it and the whole thing. Plus, campgrounds are starting to open up here and there. Again, posing another problem in Tahoe because hotels aren't open, but campgrounds are. So I think we're really close to. I really anticipated a big announcement today that's going to be a little less big, but I think it's still gonna really start to push on that pedal a little more. And then I expect the rest of it'll come next week. Seems to be how they've been operating down there.
And that's some openings of our Placer County campgrounds. Is that what the announcement you're hoping to hear is?
Well, just no. More about the lifting of leisure travel, non-travel. And yes, what we're hoping to hear today, and I think we will, is that leisure accommodations, leisure hotels are going to have. Daniel, did you talk about that in the mayor's meeting today? So I think Tahoe is going to be able to come back online very soon. And so that's kind of the big one that we're hoping for, as far as that goes.
So I guess I don't want to take too much time, everybody's time, but the Nevada County campgrounds are, from what I understand, opening back up, and El Dorado County campgrounds are opening back up. So we're talking about the Placer County campgrounds.
Well, and I'll have to check, Matt. I'm not sure, but I don't know if like Bear River Campground, I don't know what the status is on the, on Placer County's campgrounds. Most of the ones are under state and federal jurisdiction, you know, versus, and Alice would know a lot more about that. So we only have a few campgrounds here that we have jurisdiction over. And I'm not sure where they're at right now.
I've got staff people who are excited because they were able to actually go up and camp last weekend. And
Right.
I think it's fantastic. We need to get out into the great outdoors and enjoy it. But to whatever extent, you know, we can help here locally, I'm not sure what we can do, but if we can do anything, let us know.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, thanks. And again, I think there's been an ample of, I would say a heavy amount of pressure coming from the leisure industry, from Tahoe, from Placer County, to really, really understand the importance of this sector. You know, so, you know, tourism is a $1.2 billion industry in Placer County alone. It's a, you know, so there's no lack of urgency in terms of trying to get this online. And part of the problem, honestly, is, again, because things differ from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, you know, you're starting to become, you know, deal with a, you know, with an economic disadvantage if you're not coming online. For example, Nevada, the state of Nevada declared all short-term rentals essential, and said, we're not declaring them anything. Like, and if you're an essential person, you can stay over the 28 days, right? So you're in an incline, and then you know, go across Crystal Bay over to Kings Beach, and there's still a, you know, not open for hoteliers, or, you know, so I just think over, and I don't think it's going to be a long time. I think we are all recognizing how disjointed that is, and how patently competitively of a problem that's going to be for those that are still under that same scenario. I mean, we heard on the Visit California call yesterday, talked about hotels, and certain jurisdictions are moving their hotels into stage 3. Others are already open. I mean, you can basically get a hotel in almost every area of California except for Tahoe right now.
That I guess that's the root of my comments. It's the messages are disjointed. If you're in one area, you're good to go. If you're in another area,
It's yeah.
I mean, it would seem to me like the tourism industry should figure out a way to come together and make a, you know, a plea to local governments or whomever to streamline or unify the message, because it's not right now.
Well, make no mistake. I mean, they are working overtime down there. The industry is huge in California, and they do have access to the decision makers, and they're in there hammering away. I mean, one of the problems you have in Tahoe, and I think I've reiterated this with this group, is it's not really just about the hoteliers and travel. It's about a sentiment amongst the residents. You know, having been raised up there, there's always been a latent, you know, dislike, you know, amongst people that live up there. It's really, I mean, I grew up there and I know it. I mean, and now under this scenario, there's been an opportunity for them to express that and some of it. And I don't want to say everything, but, you know, that's been an ongoing thing for decades. And, you know, now we've got a different situation. And so they're very worried that, you know, that's going to cause, you know, we're all talking about, you know, political unrest and whatever, and Tahoe's been worried about that on this issue. So just by way of background on that, you know what I mean? So it makes it a little difficult.
Thanks, Rob. Go ahead, Cheryl.
Just for your information on online right now, it says that the reopening California state to allow schools, pro sports, gyms, bars to begin resuming operations next week.
Okay, so that's the new announcement, I think.
Yeah.
Where'd you see that,
It
Cheryl?
doesn't say anything about tourists. hotels or anything, Rob. It just says schools, day camps, bars, gyms, and professional sports with modifications begin reopening starting next Friday.
I'll have to look at that when we get offline.
Yeah.
We were pretty confident that it was gonna go the other way, so maybe they've taken a pause.
And nail salons are not included in this list, it says.
Damn it.
Which all this just goes back to, how it's always been, one thing and then is told no.
Right.
I see too, the Associated Press just kind of broke this story, though the guidance is still not out. So again,
Right.
you're right. The AP story says schools, day camps, bars, gyms, and professional sports with modifications starting
Right.
next Friday. So as soon as we get that guidance officially, when it gets released later today, we'll see Cheryl for bringing that up.
Okay.
Note, I just have one last item, but go ahead, Alice, before I get there.
I was just going to mention that, getting back to Matt's point and what Rob was saying is that, yes, a lot of our camping sites up in the Tahoe area and the northern part of the county are truly state parks. So they're going to open when they open. Unfortunately, we can only encourage and advocate for their opening, but Placer County itself doesn't have very many campsites at all. It's very, if any, I don't even, most of the parks are all day use. So unless they're private.
Right, there's that Bear River Campground in Colfax for sure. That's county run, but I
Yeah.
don't know any others.
Yeah, I'm not aware. I'm not aware of any either. So that was all. Thanks.
Thank you very much for that, Alice. The last thing I just wanted to mention is the chamber, the city, and the Auburn Hook and Ladder Company are working. In fact, we're holding another meeting this afternoon to try to plan for an Independence Day community event. Obviously, the fireworks and the traditional parade have already been announced that they were canceled. So hopefully by our next meeting, or probably before then, we'll have some more solid information to release. But I just wanted to mention to this group that there are planning efforts occurring to try to pull together something in a short period of time for 4th of July. And again, as I mentioned, I raised the concern to our health officer that there are those in the community that are saying, if we can protest, why can we not have an Independence Day event? And so we are working diligently to do so, and hope report out here very shortly. So with that, if nobody else has any other items, then we'll go ahead and end the meeting with just a reminder that City Council obviously is getting back together tomorrow for a closed session, but then a regular meeting on Monday, and then we'll hold another economic recovery workshop. Obviously, probably have more stage 3 items to talk about for Friday, June 12th. So with that, everybody have a good and safe weekend. Rob, did you have one thing before we go?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Have a good weekend, everybody, and thank you for joining us, and we'll talk to you all later.
All right,
Thank
take care.
you.
Bye.
Bye.